Anyway, hi everyone. Today on the Becoming That One House podcast, we're going to learn what a patamon is and what a gatomon is. Ben, do you know what a patamon and a gatomon are?
Of course I don't.
If it helps, he digivolves into an angemon.
Oh, yeah, that's totally
And
helpful.
he digivolves into a zoodomon.
Oh, yeah. Makes total sense.
Thank
you.
Because Norse god, actual god.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Becoming That One House podcast. The second episode in the new studio. It looks nice, doesn't it? I like it. We added a couple of things since last we spoke.
That's great.
Different colors, different stuff, blah, 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 blah. We have Wi-Fi now. We didn't have it last week. It was very nice to be able to, connect anything I want to my iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, let's get started. I am, of course, your intrepid host and Digimon lover, Jake. Actually, funny story about Digimon. This is one of the primary reasons I don't have my best friend from high school anymore. Who would have thought that watching a cartoon when you're in high school would have been so poorly looked upon? Anyway, I'm me, and Ben is El Capitan. And so, what we're going to talk about today is his message on the tower, the ziggurat of Babel.
That doesn't sound as good.
How do you think it became tower? Because what you were saying kind of when you were going through like the history part of it makes a lot of sense to me. And I was like, oh, I never thought about it like that. That makes a lot more sense for the time that they were in.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're trying to use words that we understand. It's just the problem is that the more you do that, the more you lose the cultural context.
Do you think it's one of those Bible stories that has been kind of so watered down by trying to teach it to little kids and just lowest common denominator that it just kind of loses?
I think it's possible. I think there are archaeological digs and excavations done over time too, and so what somebody doesn't know is true in one generation could then know is true, and things could be updated. So I don't, there's various reasons, but yeah, I mean, things can be sanitized. We talked about that with the Ark and whatnot, but yeah, I think it's just a inability to get into the culture and understand. So I don't think that that's any one person's fault. Obviously, you don't know what you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
But once you know it and have studied it, then I think you have a responsibility to teach it, I think. So that's kind of where I fall. So even if it hits people a little weird, it's like, yeah, but I have a responsibility to teach it. So,
that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
For today's icebreaker. Oh, again, Josh is not here. He's not actually been in this room since it's been this state.
He's gonna love it. He's gonna flourish in this room.
Yeah.
This has Josh flourishing written all over it.
Yeah.
This is a great room.
I mean, this
you and your crew have done.
This is very very reminiscent of what's downstairs too, and I guess what's in his office.
This is incredible.
I enjoy it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can't wait till it's done. And
You have good people have had good people working on this, but I'm still very pleasantly surprised.
I still can't. If any of you watched the podcast from last week, if you watch the podcast, I know you don't typically watch them because you're in them, but
some of it.
If you watched the podcast from last week, you remember all the sirens and stuff that we could hear, like the low.
Yeah,
you can't hear any of that.
Good. That's one thing I was worried about.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that's why there's no windows in here anymore. Even Steve texted me. He's like, "Where are you?" I was like, "You used to sleep there."
It's a long story. With a good ending so far.
Oh no! How could it turn into a bad? Oh no! Now I'm doing the catastrophizing thing. Anyway,
it's me teasing you.
Let's
yeah.
The icebreaker. So you talked about the Babel syndrome, which I'm surprised you didn't go back to a few more times. It felt like you were going to at first, and he's like, "Oh, okay, he's going a different direction."
I did. I just didn't use the slide with the
term, or whatever.
Yeah.
So you kind of made it sound like we all kind of have a specific part of the Babel syndrome that we uh, all kind of gravitate towards, like a specific one. If it is not too vulnerable, which one do we each think that we gravitate to the most?
My heart feels it feels that my relationship with God is transactional sometimes. Like I don't feel God's love sometimes. My head gravitates toward that God is a means to my end. So as much as I say he's the end and he's the goal, I really find myself loving and wanting things more than him in moments where things are more important. So someone's approval is more important, or success in this job is more important. And I tie the two together, and this is where it gets tricky because I work at a church and I'm paid to be a Christian. So it can get tricky. It can sneak up on you. I think Babel syndrome can sneak up on us as Christians. It's something that kind of seeps in, or it's just kind of there along with our new nature. And there's this weird battle that goes on, our sin nature and then the Holy Spirit. And I think Babel syndrome is those things just creeping up. It's like, oh, I've just spent this last week, even as a Christian, I've spent the last week of my life chasing approval, finding my identity in something other than God. And I don't even realize it. That's the syndrome. It's just so seeped in my nature that I think it can creep up. I think it can surprise us even today. So, but I would say my head still tries to say God's a means to my end. He's there to help me get what I really want. So that's hard to admit.
Yeah. For myself, I was thinking probably that too. But I think the reason I came upon it is a little bit different. I think that the reason, and this could speak to a deeper issue kind of, and it might actually have something to do with my life experience too, but I think that the reason I gravitate towards that with God is because I kind of do that to people too. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think intentionally, and I don't think all the time consciously, but like because of how I, my particular proclivities, there's a lot of, I need people to do stuff for me. And so a lot of my brain has been formed around, how do I get people to do stuff for me?
Yep. That's true. That makes sense. You also are very polite when you're asking for things. When you're asking for things, it makes it easier to do things for you.
Well, I try to be polite when I can. He doesn't have a mic right now, nor will we be able to hear him from behind the wall. But Jared knows how polite I am.
Mm-hmm. He just screamed and laughed.
Oh. We're just lucky this church, this space is church adjacent. Jason.
Yeah, I don't. Again, you have to tell me more what Jason has to do with this, because I love Jason, but I don't know what he has to do with
it. Anyway, so it didn't seem like. Well, we'll just do this. Because it's weird to give that one takeaway for your own message. Yeah. Let's just put it like this: if you were talking to someone who missed it, mm-hmm. what would your one takeaway from it be?
It would be our attempts to worship God on our terms doesn't work. It's not going to work. It's not going to accomplish what we want it to accomplish, and it's not going to accomplish what God wants it to accomplish. And it wasn't meant to work. So if you say, draw me a game plan, draw me up a plan of success apart from God or using God to get what I really want, and then I can achieve it and sustain it, and it will actually fulfill that space in my life that I want it to, there's no such thing. It just doesn't exist. It doesn't work. Our feeble attempts to accomplish things and hold on to things, meaning apart from God or using God to get them, it doesn't work. It wasn't meant to work.
Yeah. Mine kind of goes back to a point that you made a handful of weeks ago. I'm not really sure when. The first time in this series that you referred to us as trophies of God's grace.
Mm-hmm.
And it really struck me when it was, because we'll talk about this a little bit later, but when, be fruitful, go and multiply and fill the earth. No, we're just going to stay in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And then being forced to do that, even through our rebellion, God brings what he originally wanted to put across the earth, and the diversity. Looking at it in that light, I think that the diversity of this world is one of the most beautiful trophies of grace that we have been gifted by God.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I think you get there, so I'll save my response to that. I think it's good.
What's next? I wish you guys could see the amount of different ways I spelled ziggurat on this.
It's not a normal nomenclature.
It kind of looks like a Pokemon name. If you don't know what a Pokemon is, it's similar to what a Digimon is, except a Digimon is digital and a Pokemon is pocket.
Is pocketal.
Yeah. So you said ziggurat was more about getting the gods to come down to the people than going up to them, which is kind of counter to the way I've always heard the story of Babel. But the way you described it was actually really helpful in understanding that it wasn't actually like a tower to Babel. The way you described it to me sounded a lot like just an altar. So how is it different than an altar, and why is an altar more appropriate for worship and a ziggurat is not?
Ziggurats were like the medium. So you have all the stairs. You have stairs, then a platform, then more stairs, then a platform, then more stairs. It's a little bit complicated, hard for us to understand. This is a massive structure. It was full. It was wide. There was nothing inside it, so it wasn't like a pyramid, but it was just meant to stack, stairs upon stairs. It was designed to blur the lines between earth and heaven and the gods. So there was an aspect of going up. But the whole purpose of going up was to call the gods down. There was a belief, and we've talked about this almost every week, in that Genesis was written to the Israelites, but it was written into a culture where there was worship of multiple gods. So it was very true in Genesis 11 that this group of people, almost certainly, I don't know if they would have also believed in the one true God or known something about him, but they also would have believed in other gods. And the point was to get the gods to come down the steps to the base. At the bottom of a ziggurat was usually a temple that was attached to it or very nearby. The temple was on the ground level. The ziggurat was just a means to get down there. It was an invitation to come down. At the temple, and in the temple, when the gods would come in, then you would have food, clothing. It was just a place for them to rest. It was a place for them to recover. It was a place for them to be nourished.
And this is inside the ziggurat.
Inside the temple. There was no inside a ziggurat. The ziggurat is just a means to an end. It was meant to have steps and more steps and more steps, so you could go up and up and up, so that you could call the gods down. The higher up you went, the better chance you had of the gods knowing it was there and then coming down.
So then the difference would be that an altar is not meant to call the gods down.
Not usually. Usually an altar is in a temple where the sacrifice was made for the gods. But there is some research to suggest that there were altars at the top of the ziggurats, platforms at the very top, where there were like either beds or like couches, maybe an altar with sacrifices, but the whole point is to blur the lines and then invite them down. So like get their attention and then come down. We have something for you. And really, it looks like it's for the gods, but it's really for them. It's for their benefit, so that the gods can be happy with them, so that the gods then can bless whatever they put their hands to. Building project, family, fertility, success and travel, crops, whatever was most important to them. So that's the point of the story, I think.
Okay. So the goal of the ziggurat, as we've been talking about, was to get God to come down to the people. Would you say that in this era they got what they wanted?
They actually did.
Yeah. And how did that work out for them?
Didn't like it.
So that got me thinking, in what other capacities in the Old Testament specifically, has Israel tried to manipulate God to come to them and gotten what they want?
The time. All the time.
Let's talk about some specific ones.
Yeah, all the time. The golden calf incident. It was a representation, but it was made because Moses was so long in coming down the mountain. And so it's this graven image made to represent God. It's basically I'm fastening him in my image because he's taking too long. I don't know enough about him. My physical human leader isn't here, and so I'm going to fasten an image in my image, or what I imagine God to be like, however I want to. It's going to be pretty. It's going to look nice, but it's going to be, this is my depiction of God, and I'm going to worship God again on my terms. All the way through the prophets, all the way through the Old Testament, even if the Israelites, in certain junctures, they would have believed, okay, this God, this Yahweh, he's more powerful than the other gods. Or they would have tried to assimilate him into, like, he's our God in the desert. He was the God in Egypt and the God in the desert, but then there are other gods, certainly, and the prophets are always, like, waging war, and God is speaking through them going, no, they're not. They're made of stone. Now, you could take a really deep dive and go, yes, but the spiritual forces of evil found ways to inhabit these spaces where these gods were, and it made them seem very real. And that's just a really deep dive in another podcast, I think. But the leaders of Israel are always, the prophets are always railing against the people. They're not real. God is the one true God. Stop worshiping them. Stop offering your sacrifices to the one true God, because you're not even concerned with repentance, and you're not even concerned with taking care of the less fortunate, and you don't have justice in your courts, and all this horrible stuff is going on there. You're not feeding the poor and caring for the widows. Stop offering me sacrifices. I don't want them. Speaking of, like, how it's not transactional, he doesn't want a transactional relationship with us. You know, and so it happens all the time in all different ways. So even if you can pin down an Israelite group that goes, okay, God's the one true God, our sinful hearts are always just gravitating toward trying to get God to do what we want him to do. And I'm not even saying that is always sinful all of the time. I have a natural, like, I want God to do this for me, and I want God to do that for me. I'm not saying I'm sinning when I'm saying that to you. But where's the surrender? You know, am I then repenting and going, I'm going to do my best to worship God the way that he reveals himself? Because that's what it means to worship the one true God.
I want to be very careful to not be heretical when I say this, but it is a fair assessment to make saying or making the observation that Israel is most surrendered to God when they are in the captivity of another nation.
Sometimes. Daniel and his 3 friends certainly have figured something out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just incredibly powerful how God doesn't work through a nation. He works through 4 guys to, like, accomplish his purposes. It's amazing what happens in the book of Daniel. So fast forward with me for a minute to Jesus. So that the God-man, the Messiah, they didn't know he was God at the time, but the Messiah is on earth. And what do? They're interested in what he can bring to them. He can bring them peace. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's their... They never quite shake free from that. They're just constantly in the battle about it. Which one of us is greatest? And when we enter into your kingdom and you're going to overthrow Rome, and you're worshiping Jesus. They didn't worship Jesus because they thought he was a man only. But I'm just saying, you scale back now. You're worshiping Jesus. You're following this Messiah for what he can do for you. I'm not saying that in itself is always wrong. It's it's that same drum beat. It's that same thing versus like, am I actually going to like worship him for who he is? That's what surrender is. That's what trusting him is. None of us do that perfectly or anywhere close. I'm just saying that's the call. That's the invitation, is to not build a ziggurat and invite him down on my terms, but to worship him on his terms.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's way easier said than done. I kind of answered the next one,
Yeah, you
but
kind of did. Do you have anything else to say about that?
and anything, ways we try to control God to get him operating on our terms, anything, religious activities, the same stuff you and I do on a weekly basis. You know, it's that thing that's that syndrome. It's just that it just seeps in. It's just, man, I realize I haven't been worshiping God at all this week. I've just been checking a box because I want him to do something for me. And we all have that. And I'm not saying that's always overtly sinful. I'm trying really hard I just don't think it's going to work. I don't think it works.
Not in the way we want it to.
No,
anyways.
no, because we can't sustain it because we are either turning our backs on God or we are using God to get something else.
Mm-hmm.
The answer to it's not found there.
I mean, I'm not sure how applicable this is, but take the situation that you and I have been in the past couple weeks, or the past week. I've been frustrated, not because it's a thing that matters, not because it's a thing that you would change because I'm frustrated, just because it's a thing that is frustrating to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not going to change
the fundamentals of our relationship.
Well, that hopefully. That would be a really stupid thing to change the fundamental of our relationship.
Agreed.
But my doing the thing that you asked me to do is not going to change my frustration, but letting go of the frustration can potentially change other things in the wider scope.
I think so.
But I can't let go of the frustration.
Mm-hmm. It's an exercise of empathy on my end. It's an exercise of trust on your end.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I think if I show you one, hopefully that will help you. If you show me the other, hopefully that will help me. But yeah, makes sense. That was a good way to code that. Nice job. How to talk about your personal issues without talking about your personal issues.
Right.
And action.
Oh, also, you also probably don't see the comments on Spotify. Dan, we saw your comment on Spotify. Well, I saw your comment on Spotify.
Yeah.
He still listens at 1.5 speed, even though we go under an hour. What do you want from us, Dan?
Yeah. That's a question I'm scared to ask. What does
I know
Dan
what-
really want from me?
I know what Dan wants. He wants all.
I think Dan wants me to succeed.
I think Dan wants to succeed. I also think
he wants
that,
you. No, he wants me to, and I think he wants you to
No,
succeed.
I think he wants all of us to. I also think that he wants everybody to come to this church, regardless of
He does.
what they believe. That sounds weird. Who they are, and what they've done.
He kind of embodies that one house. Don't you think?
I do think that if I were to say that person embodies what we're talking about, Dan is the person I would be talking about.
I think so too.
We love you, Dan.
Nice. Well said.
Where are we?
All that they plan.
Ah, yes, that was an interesting statement. Can you talk a bit about that? Because it was a Hebrew translation that you put at the bottom of your slide.
Yeah.
Right? Let me read the whole question first, and then you can just kind of react to it. All that they plan to do will not be withheld.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about that, and I was thinking, isn't it fascinating that God created us as a being who time and time again proved themselves to be capable enough in all the worst ways.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't create a being that is kind of sub. He created a being that we are a sub being, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm trying to say, though.
I do.
Like, he created a being that is capable. Yes.
Still finite, but
yes.
in that finiteness, certainly at the top shelf.
Yep. Anyway, capable in all the worst ways, such that he's had to alter the course of history for our world several times to fit around us and to continue to lovingly push us in a direction. So
well said.
What I wanted to talk about is expand on the concern that God has for/from us. Certainly, I think it's more for than from.
Right.
Can it be? I think we want to be clear. We're not talking about human capability rivaling God. Like that's not. I think why he does the things that he does to correct the world. But I think that it can be talked about in that confusing of a capacity. So let's kind of discuss and expand on that.
Yeah, that's great. I put the Hebrew because it's better, because nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Sounds like, very much like, we can do anything. In fact, we can even take God out. Get us close enough, give us enough time. We will prove God to be irrelevant or non-existent or beatable or fill in the blank, which is absolutely insane. But you're right about capabilities. All they plan to do will not be withheld from them. So in the direction of like destroying ourselves, in the direction of doing things that are just not healthy for us, each other, our surroundings, I think sky is the limit at the evil that we're capable of, or the good things that we do that eventually turn into horrible things. Or, you get the good with the bad in this culture. I mean, the next thing that the next 100 conversations you and I have in a couple of years are going to be about AI, for better and for worse, more so worse for you. I don't think anybody knows exactly, but some of the trends are very concerning.
You mean like
there's so many things we talk about.
The camera and Alexa Plus. Alexa Plus scares me.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about that the other week, and I looked into it, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't like that." Ooh,
just take the idea of like just being able to live longer, and so let's say in 20 years AI increases our lifespans. Remember back in that one section around Genesis 3-ish and the first sin, where we talked about how, in a way, it was an act of God's grace that he allowed us to actually die, because otherwise we just stay alive in a sinful, broken state. Mm-hmm. And that's like the actual, like, you could argue that's the worst torture, or eternal conscious torment apart from God in hell is the worst torture. I don't want to get into that's another podcast. I'm just saying that it is its own form of torture and horror. Just to live longer doesn't solve our ultimate problem. I'm not saying I wouldn't be very open to that. I wouldn't be open to AI attached to robots that could do it, that 100% guaranteed. I needed a very specific surgery, microsurgery, and it was 100% guaranteed to work. I'm not saying I wouldn't be open to that. I'm not saying I wouldn't lean into that. I'm not saying I wouldn't lean into a longer life necessarily. So I don't mean like all of those things are bad. I just mean that it doesn't solve our ultimate problem. Only Jesus does. So okay, I live longer in a broken, sinful world, and I just have more and more accumulation of residue on me from living in a broken, sinful world, and it's just that doesn't solve anything. So all that we plan to do will not be withheld from us, So if we do eventually live long enough to where we can cultivate Mars, shout out to Elon, that's... that isn't going to solve our ultimate problem. Being on Mars, escaping Earth, isn't going to solve our ultimate problem. It's just nothing is. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that anything in this world can bring other than the kingdom of God coming down from heaven, led by Jesus, that it's going to solve our ultimate problem. And I think that's what's so scary, is that we have these capabilities, and yes, sheer evil, but also good things that we just have no boundaries around them. You and I both know the reason that we're scared of AI is because it's going to be boundaryless, because there's going to be just this push to know more, this endless curiosity, and there's going to be this push to like win and outshine the other region or country or whatever, and we're just going to push, and it's going to come at a great cost. Whatever the results end up being, that alone is going to come at a great cost. Just that there's going to be not enough boundaries around new technology. It's not going to be enough care and concern for how it actually affects people and families and communities. I'm not saying that's not going to exist. It's just not going to be loud enough.
It's just another way to isolate us, kind of.
Sure.
I mean, because think about what it's done to the creative arts. If you don't need, like, you have a AI construct, whatever, make a metal version or a hip hop version, or any of the ways that they use AI to make music right now. Like, where's the artistry in that? Where is the gifts that God gave us in that? Is that really what He wants from us? Is that really a way He wants to be worshipped? Like, I don't think there's any way to really know that.
I know,
but
it's hard to even fathom. But like, think of just this unlimited scrolling and what happens to your brain. Like, we call it doom scrolling or whatever, and just what it rewires your brain, and just how the dopamine hit, and just this never-ending like thirst for like to know more and more without any boundaries, and what that can do to a human brain and your nervous system.
And then you talk about the data centers that run it all, that are like using water to cool themselves, and like, is that stewarding our resources that the Lord has given us? Now, I don't want to make it sound like I'm super negative Nancy over AI, although I kind of am. But then like, you have the other side of it, where it's like, you know, people like Josh. He did that whole video the other day on it. That was like, it helps me organize my thoughts. And like, there's very legit, like, there's reason in that
the person, Josh, that I know is open to putting boundaries around it. I'm speaking from a global scale, a macro scale of just, I just know that's not going to win. We're not going to put boundaries around it enough, and we're going to suffer the consequences. But this is what we do. And so we're back to the question now. This is even a good thing can turn into a horrible thing. Even if you and I agree this technology or this advancement is good, if it's apart from God, or it's under the auspices of trying to bend God to our will, it's not good, and it doesn't work, and it's not going to work. And God is gentle, and He's patient, He's long-suffering, and like you've said so well here and in conversation with me, He gently confuses and reroutes, and I just think that that's a hard job to be God, but I'm glad I'm not Him. But He's trying to work with us, but we also have to have the ability to seemingly to choose Him, right? That's
the point of free will.
It seems to be very important to Him.
Would you call free will a part of the capability that God has given us?
Sure, I would. I just wouldn't call it free when you don't choose God, or you choose God on your terms. I wouldn't say you're making a free choice, even though, yes, I admit that will that you have has to be free to be able to express itself.
So are the two separate, really, then?
I don't know. I think it's got to be called free will at some point, in some way, as long as you acknowledge that as soon as you step away from your original design and your creator, you are anything but free. It's a deep irony. Fish out of water, I wouldn't call it free. I would call it free from the water, but also free from its natural habitat and how it was created, and also dead within a minute.
There are some fish that can live on land. Not to undermine your point, but
are you channeling the power of your, what are they called again?
Oh, Digimons?
Yeah.
No, there actually are some fish that can, like,
inner Digimon. Channeling your inner Digimon. I know what you're saying. That's another podcast.
Channeling my inner Digimon. What Digimon would I be? I would be Wargreymon.
I'm also going back away from the Digimon. I'm saying sometimes the worst thing that can happen to us is that we succeed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you said that a bunch on Sunday.
So let's move past it, because we could talk about it all day. But it's very well said, though. Very well stated.
All day, every day. So now we're going to get to one of my, and I think probably a thing that's going to take a while, because there's a lot to this and could be several other podcasts. This Babel is a very interesting time to talk about. And like, I wrote this question before I got to this point where you kind of talked about this in the message. So I was kind of like forming this in my head, and then you said it, and I was like, now it's not going to be as much my own thought.
Darn.
So Babel's such an interesting time to think about. The people of the world unite to try to, I'm going to say, try to force God down to them.
Coerce.
That was one of the words I used and then deleted.
Yeah.
When he answers them, he confuses and blows the whole thing out of the water, basically. He scatters them. To my mind, and me trying to balance what I know about science and faith, which is not much, and this is not a researched point at all, I wonder if this is the point when diversity started to enter the world in any real, like, river flowing capacity. And like, if there was a Pangea, again, didn't research this, don't know. If there was a Pangea, was this the point when it broke up? And this the point when people, like, what did that look like? All sorts of things like that. And then going back to what we talked about, you saying a handful of weeks ago, it's all for us to be a bigger trophy of his grace. How just fantastic is it that the diversity that is maybe not all the time celebrated as much as it should be in this world, is, I think, the biggest trophy of his grace within the context of this story. Even in our rebellion, he gives us that, and it still is in line with what he wants, even if it's not exactly what he originally.
He stopped me. I'll speak for myself. He stopped me in my tracks, put myself in the Tower of Babel group. He stopped me in my tracks. I was headed for absolute destruction. He grounded me. He rerouted me, and he temporarily saved me in that way.
So does that mean it's not the original way he intended for your life to proceed?
To build a ziggurat up to him to try to get him to come down on my terms?
No. I'm talking about how he rerouted you. Sorry, I'm kind of bridging it in my head between rerouting you at Cornerstone.
Oh, yeah.
And
God was rerouting me. He was convicting me. I was sidestepping him, holding him at arm's length, trying to give him partial obedience. My resident director saw right through it, which is great. So he confused my confusion, which actually brought me clarity. When God comes down and confuses something that's confusing, I think that's two negatives make a positive in that sense, I guess. It's hard to. He's bringing confusion, but he's doing it to save them in some smaller sense. He certainly doesn't do that all the time. Every other page in Scripture, he's not like, and God came down and got them back on the right track, and Cain was about to kill Abel, and God came down and stopped him. Got to be really busy if he came down and stopped every bad thing before it happened. I don't know. You'd have to argue with whether there'd be free will in that and not. God can certainly do what he wants to do. But I want to land where you're going here, because I think it's more important. I do think diversity was always part of God's plan. I do.
Yeah. I get that from this story, not from how you talked about it.
So ironically, he confused their languages, and so let's say different languages came out of that Genesis 11. If it did, then we would say, even though God was rerouting them, languages would maybe have always come out of forming nations, and that could have been a really good thing, and cultures. And
logically, a group of people wouldn't stay together for forever. They would eventually, whether it's infighting, whether it's just we have to split off because this boulder blocked our path and half of us have to go this way and half of us have to go. Like, logically, that would happen over time, I think.
Right.
And
so all the diversity that's packed into
That almost seems... Sorry.
No, go.
That almost seems like diversity itself, an injection of diversity into the world, was like an emergency sort of situation, which makes it seem even
in
more...
that moment.
Which makes it seem even more important that a diverse world, a diverse people of God is essential to God's plan for his creation.
Yeah. So could we say like God has always wanted diversity, but he's also always wanted unity. He's wanted unity in diversity.
Yeah.
And I think there's a tension there, a good, healthy tension. So for instance, we're fast forwarding now to the end, but Revelation 7, isn't it interesting that the glimpse that John gets of people worshiping Jesus, they're from every tribe, tongue, and nation. So there's tons of diversity, but there's unity. Why? Because they're all worshiping Jesus? Absolutely. They're all wearing white robes? Yes. They're all waving palm branches? Yes. Why? Because they're unified around Jesus, because they've all been washed by the blood of Jesus. And so that's what unifies them.
I mean, even those that haven't been even those that haven't surrendered to Christ, like, will be within that unity. If it's every knee will bow, even if some of those bowing are not bowing because they are surrendering.
So at some level, he's going to force it.
Some level.
Yeah.
I would, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. He does that thing, right, where in moments he'll force it, like he'll confuse the languages. He won't let it continue to go on. Mm-hmm. The flood, he won't let things continue to go past a certain point. And then, like you said, every knee's going to bow. So before he does whatever he's going to do, there's going to be this like unity that every knee's going to bow. Now, how deep is that unity going to go? You could argue not that deep, because some will be bending their knee because they're forced to. Others will be falling flat on their face willfully and gleefully. Mm-hmm. So I don't know he's the king, and he deserves it all. So it's rightfully his, and he's also good. So, I don't know. It's not like he's got an ego problem. You will bow down to me to feed my ego.
No,
he has no ego that way. No, I'm not saying that's what you meant.
I was going to say, from what I understand, it's just when God does return, his presence, as it always has been, will be so great that he will return in his fullness, not in a pillar of fire, not in a burning bush, not in some sort of proxy way, but in its fullness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we can clean that all up, but that's
no.
That's well stated, though. If this is where the diversity in our world began, it's still one of the biggest trophies of his grace. Diversity is one of the biggest trophies of his grace, but diversity without unity in Christ falls way short. And so I actually think that's something that God would grieve. Mm-hmm. Jesus walks around and he's grieving all the time. Mm-hmm. He's grieving all the time. I'm sure he's making jokes, or he's laughing at times, and he's eating good food, and yes, he was fully human. He's grieving all the time.
I think that's, we talk about the chosen a lot, and I think that's one of the amazing ways that Jonathan Romy has brought Jesus to life on the screen, is because you can kind of, like, the way he plays it, from what I've seen, you can see that weight on him, even with the exception of when he is around children in that show. I believe that you can see the weight of what he's doing on him.
Yeah. So human Jesus, for sure. The God-man, Jesus, he's shown as grieving all the time, so it would make sense that, that diversity in of itself isn't the goal. Mm-hmm. Within the diversity, to have a unity, which you can read more about in Acts chapter 2 and following, when the Holy Spirit comes at Pentecost, where God's forming a new community under Christ by the power of the Holy Spirit. God's doing something huge. He's fighting Genesis 11 with Acts chapter 2, because Acts chapter 2, you start to see it work in reverse, where God's confusing. He's bringing confusion. He's actually bringing clarity. Now each people group that speaks a different language is hearing in their own language, and they're unified. But he's only unifying people in Christ, not anything else. Not in a hobby, not in sports. Sports unity is a thing. It's an actual thing that you can experience. Team USA was, by all accounts, was very unified in hockey, men's and women's. Actually, the women's don't get talked about very much, but they both won gold. But the men get talked about a lot, and they really, by all accounts, they were very unified, and that's what helped them win. They were by a goal.
That's the first time. I think it was Aaron I was talking to, or Jared maybe. that's the first time the men have won gold since the Miracle on
1980.
Ice.
Yeah. But the point is, and I'm not trying to make this big spiritual point from hockey. I'm just saying, like,
Why not?
I don't know, because it's another podcast. But the point is, without unity in Christ, without Christ being the unifier, nothing else ultimately holds up. Nothing else ultimately lasts. I'm not able to achieve and hold on to ultimate value apart from God or using and manipulating him to get what I really want. It just doesn't work, and it's not going to work. And that was, even though my resident director wasn't using the story of the Tower of Babel, he was saying the same thing. It's not going to work. Bending God to your will. That's not even why you came to Cornerstone. It's so weird that you're doing this right now. But it's also not, because it's your sin nature. Here we go again, you know. But it's like you came to Cornerstone to experience God and deepen your relationship with Jesus. And here you are over halfway through, and you haven't really done it for a lot yet. And that also scares me, because you're going to miss this opportunity that you have in college to experience God the way that you wanted to. And oh, by the way, this thing that you're doing isn't going to work. It's just not. And I think you know it's not going to work. You know, and it's like, yeah, fair point. Touche.
You hate when people have those.
He was a lot smarter than me.
You hate when people have those moments with you, don't you?
Yeah, he also loved me, so that was good.
Well, hate that you love it.
No, he loved. I'm saying I felt loved by him, which is huge. Felt like he cared about me.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell some stories about my resident director, but I did not go to Cornerstone, so.
You and 7 other people at church,
right? I mean, we basically been keeping Cornerstone afloat over here.
We really do value you non-Cornerstone alum. There really are more than you and 7 people.
The other thing speaking of trophies of grace and diversity, also just real quick, talk about a capable creation of God. Diversity. So we're diverse, right? We all look and feel and perceive incredibly different.
Mm-hmm. Think about music, man. Like think about like just there aren't that many chords.
Nope.
And just think about the variety and diversity
mm-hmm.
of music that it continues to be made. And like, yeah, sure, there are times where there's copyright infringement, and yeah, sure, there are times when you and I listen to a song and we're like, that sounds a lot like the 1982 version of whatever. Most of them are different. They're different pieces of music altogether. That's incredible. So from Noah and his family come all it is packed in there, all of the diversity, the diverse capabilities within that family somehow. So you want to talk about like melanin in the skin, or you want to talk about like
I didn't talk about anything like
personality, musical taste, skills, anything.
Yeah, anything that we can adapt to. But like specifically what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So if like I'm not going to say that diversity is the goal, but if that is part of if that is a trophy of grace of God's design,
it is.
How do we? Here it goes. I'm going to dive right in. Are you ready for this? It's good. I'm going to dive right in. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that I, in my current existence, am a trophy of God's grace?
Yes.
So, when I die and I am healed, I won't even put air quotes around it, healed.
Yeah.
Who's to say that I'm not this? If I am a trophy of God's grace to the way that I am, why do I physically need to be healed?
You're going to get me down a path where we're going to ask questions like this that we're not going to have clean answers to. It's going to make me very emotional, because I have people in my head that I love, yourself included, that I think of.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be careful, because I'm not writing your story.
Well, especially when you consider that a lot of the reason I am the way I am is because of what I have had to be long suffering through with my body. So
if my one friend at church, she dreams of having her leg back on the new earth, I'm dreaming right along with her. If my friend and coworker that's sitting right across from me says, this is pretty fundamental, my CP is pretty fundamental to who I am, and just be careful, that we don't celebrate something that doesn't really feel like me anymore. I want to be really sensitive to that.
It's an interesting question, though, isn't it? Like,
Yep.
like I know that there are people that would say, well, it's an effective sin. And yes, that is true.
I don't want, I'm going to speak for myself here. I don't dream of Jacob Odell being different than what he currently is. Because to me, it's too far of a leap where now he's somebody else. I don't know.
That is interesting.
I don't know.
What do you do with that?
I don't know.
Because like you can make the argument that, oh, well, what's going to be healed is our sin nature, which, yes, but then why do we talk about you're going to be? I don't even like. How do you talk about that?
I don't know. There's
because I don't want to be with a cancer patient and say you're not going to be fully restored because this cancer is making you a trophy of God's grace, and without it, you'd be a different person. So
I don't know.
I don't know how to like. I don't even really. I know how to engage it for myself.
I know.
But I don't know how to engage it for others.
When you told me that a couple weeks ago, that gave me major pause. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did tend to do that thing with you when I thought of like, yeah, and his arm's not going to hurt, so there's that, and he's going to be able to walk around freely. And then you were like, I'm not sure that I want that though. And it's like, wow, okay, because I'm sure that I don't want back pain, but you're right. Now you're making me think because the back pain has made me so much more patient, man, and so much more gracious than I ever would have been. It would have taken me forever to cultivate what I currently have, and that is not about me. That is about what God's done through the pain in the midst of it without healing any of it. Or, yes, a doctor here and a physical therapy there, and yes, you smooth out some of the sharp edges. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm very thankful. My neck hurt so bad 8 years ago, I almost quit. I'm not like I'm very thankful for modern medicine. That's not the point. But you're making me really pause.
Well, and then you got to consider the fact that it's like, okay, so the way we talk about heaven is everything on this plane of existence will be like a distant memory, and so then like what will it matter? And it's kind of like I don't know about that, but also like yes, but also like I don't know about that.
You're gonna wipe my memories, the beautiful memories that I have of my friendships, and I hope not.
Yeah. But then we're getting down a rabbit hole here.
I know.
But then like how do you reconcile like I don't know that marriage will look the same in heaven. Will it even exist? Will it even need to exist? Will it even matter because we'll all be worshiping God?
I don't know. He's got to do that thing where I think he preserves our humanity, and yet it's also different. How do you I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
I can't. Part of me can't wait. Part of me cannot wait to find out. The other part of me is a little nervous as we're talking about it because I want.
Because he might do that thing where he forces a thing, and
but he's either
doesn't matter what we want.
He's either good, the best way that we can describe him, or he's not. And if he is, he's going to do whatever he's going to do is so much better than what I can possibly imagine. And I think to me, the hints are strong that he's going to preserve me, that he actually loves me. He doesn't love generic Ben, generic humanity. He actually sees and loves me, and he sees and loves you. And we got to try to trust him.
I think that is the third time on this podcast we have had a conversation that is similar to that point. Mm-hmm. One of these days, I'll. Never mind. That's a different podcast. We'll talk about that later.
To relate to your last point though about where I ended my message, where we already have a name in Jesus, where what he achieves is he's given the name above all names.
Yeah.
And our name gets attached to his name. We take his name. So yes, you could say like we are adopted children and we are citizens of the new earth and all that, but it's like to me it's more of a focus on it's just his name and what he accomplished. That becomes my worth and my value is who I am in him. So I just want to be mindful of that. That I'm not trying to like form this identity. Like, yeah, what he did for me is really nice, but like I'm also like fun at parties, and like I'm really creative, and like I'm not saying you're not or I'm not. I'm just saying I just want to be careful.
Oh no, I'm definitely not fun at parties.
Yeah, you're creative though.
That's true.
I'm not fun at parties either.
I just kind of stand there.
I'm too introverted, and so are you.
There's too much noise going on, man. I can't.
We're too
do
introverted.
It. Yeah,
we're melancholy introverts,
That's
dude.
it. Yeah. We need the. Was he a sanguine?
I need the Josh and the Nate to show up.
Yeah.
Take focus off me.
Yeah. We need the louder person, and the one willing to be louder.
Be energized, charismatic.
I mean, look at it this way. Josh has only been gone 2 weeks, and already you and I are arguing about stuff.
See? We need him to balance us out. I told you that already a long time ago.
That's funny. Anyway, is that the response you want to have?
Yeah, our name is achieved by Jesus. We receive it by grace, and that I just want that to be the last thing I say.
Okay. Well, that's our discussion of Ben's message. I think it was called "The Place of Confusion." Mm-hmm. Okay. The Place of Confusion. We'll be back next week with another sermon breakdown, the final sermon in the Genesis trilogy, and then I think we're going to do a couple of different things after that for a little bit, maybe. I'm not really sure. Maybe we'll try to find something for kind of a countdown to Easter sort of thing. Other than that, if you want to connect with us, we have these beautiful Connect cards in the pews and online. They say connect with that one house. You can put your name, contact information, what you need, any questions you may have for us or the podcast. On the back here, if you use your name and want your question asked on the podcast, it's completely anonymous. We will never use your name if you don't want us to, or even if you do want us to, we probably won't. Other than that, again, this is very important information. Patamon and Gomamon. TK's Digimon and Joe's Digimon. And other than that, we'll see you Sunday.
What's my wife have to do with it?
Boy Joe.